We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcast are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Ignite Your Heart and Soul right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful repeat guests are Dave and Carla. We had them back here earlier this year, and we talked about something that was very, very important. Actually, we had them back last year, and it was about the reincarnations, their reincarnation of how they've known each other for so many lifetimes and how they connected in this lifetime. And they've written so many books, on the past life, the gift of past lives. And we're going to be talking about another book today called The Manual. And the manual, the how-to. Does anybody have a manual out there that can help us through what we need to learn in life? And what they've created one. They say, you never got the manual, did you? Well, they reveal 12 faces of man created by God, along with sacred geometry, astrology signs, traits, archetypes, angel spirits, guides, and elements. And that sounds extremely intriguing. So I want to get right into the show. David Betterhausen and Carla, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, I know, Bognikid.
Very good.
Perfect.
They've known each other for a very long time, in this lifetime and past lifetimes. So when they write something and when they do something, they're in perfect synergy with each other. So let's dive into their rhythm of life and find out what the manual is all about and how we can use it in our own lives. Welcome back, folks.
Welcome. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're glad to be here.
Good to have you back here again. When you talk about past lives, a lot of people are still kind of about that, but there's so many more people that are waking up and going, that explains. Yeah, I didn't have this experience in this lifetime. How come this resonates so much to me? Or I kind of remember experience I know I've never done in this lifetime. And, what is this voice speaking to me from afar? Or why do I have such a synergy with somebody that I've just met or just looked at? And these are all those wonderful past life connections kind of crossing paths, isn't it?
Absolutely. And what we found is, surprisingly, on our journey, we found 42 lives for me, 34 for Carla, and 29 of those past lives, Carla and I were in them together, which starts to allow us to look at patterns. And then with the help of our spirit guide, our angels, and God, we started to write down our patterns. And then they started to tell us about how those patterns repeat for others. So we wrote the manual to try to help people look at what lessons they're supposed to learn, look at how they were created in that intermission period, how God, angels, the spirit guides, and actually the Council of 12 that some people have heard of, all work to plan your next life. And in the manual, because none of us knew how this worked, but in the manual, we start to try to explain how this works related to your karma, the lessons you need to learn, and how you're going to grow from life to life.
I think when people wake up to something, the big thing is like, what is happening to me? And then what am I meant to do with it? And how am I meant to do it?
Correct.
And then the big how is always best when it comes from somebody who's already done it. Because you're laying the path there. It's like in writing my book, there was a paragraph I wrote the other day, and on becoming a mother, there is no manual for a mother. There's, self-help books and there's this and that, but when that child is placed in your arms, this life is your responsibility. You are the custodian of this life. And for a lot of it, you are just, navigating through it. Without the manual, because let's face it, a manual for raising a child, it's so totally different according to each child. So what worked for one doesn't work for another. And a lot of it is that we step into our instincts, our own intuition, our own inner guidance. I think even our own ancestral guidance that comes through us. Well, it's the same with everything, isn't it? With our past lives, that they're here to teach us, you know, what we're meant to do in this lifetime, because our past lives have set us up to accomplish something in this lifetime.
Absolutely. It's interesting you talk about that. Even in our first book, The Gift of Past Lives, while we were getting lessons from our spirit guides, in the middle of all of it, they stopped. They said, this is just for parents. And part of the lessons there were, if you don't treat your child right, you're going to pass some of your karma to them.
Yes. Yes.
And we talk about that. And we started to watch patterns that were developing. And of course, by doing some past life regressions, now we don't really do them for a living because we do them with friends and et cetera. But what we found is that sometimes the patterns of alcoholism and abuse and those things are really passed life to life. If you were an alcoholic and you had a child, the child may be alcoholic and you'll return to that child so that you understand what it's like to have an alcoholic parent.
And maybe break the cycle.
And break the cycle. That's exactly the answer. Then we started looking at other patterns, and we found that we had patterns where we were Scottish fighting the English, then we were English fighting the Scottish, then we were Scottish again being invaded by the Vikings, and then we were Vikings fighting the English. And we realized that sometimes we were even fighting on opposite or same wars. And we started noticing there's patterns because you had to live on both sides to understand some compassion and learn what was happening. When we got to the manual, my spirit guide's name is Isabella. Carla's name, spirit guide, is Elizabeth. We have angels that we speak with. We have some communications from God, all lessons. And it started to run us through how some of the patterns. Now, some of your listeners know part of the patterns because, of course, the 12 faces of God that first appear, that almost everyone has heard about, is astrological signs. Isabel again taught us that a little different than most of us like to think. It's not the stars that pull us, it's us that were born under the stars. So we see the pattern in the sky, but that's because we were born under a specific time frame. And everyone born in that specific time frame has some qualities. And we've been cataloging them for millions of years. And it doesn't matter which religion you're in, because there are significant amount of study of the astrological signs. Even in the Catholic Church, there are churches that have astrological signs pasted all around them. It doesn't matter if you're Jewish and you follow the Kabbalah, they still have some astrological influences. We find that it's almost a common issue that follows through every part of society. How are we affected by when we are born?
Yes.
Now, because karma has been such an important part of this, what we found is that one of the things Isabella taught us really early was the 5 simple rules. Do you want to?
No, go ahead.
The 5 simple rules, which are live a life without conceit, selfishness, jealousy, and unforgiveness, and always make every decision out of love. That's how you break the karmic cycle. Well, we found that the astrological signs are actually joined in groups of 3 based on the karmic sign, which is related to your last life. Carla, I'm going to let you talk about which 3 you all follow in here.
So, what I learned about astrology early in life was much different than what Isabella gave us. And first of all, everybody assumes that Capricorn starts off the year. Isabella says Capricorn does not start off the year. They're actually at the end. So if you lump these together at the beginning of the year, you actually have Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries. and they fall under the yellow angel of Mariel's Legion for selfishness. Now, does that mean you're selfish now? Not necessarily. It means you were selfish in a past life. So God gave you an angel of selfishness to remind you so you wouldn't repeat the same things. And then the next group of astrological signs, we have Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. They fall under Shamuel's Legion of Conceit, the pink angel. And again, conceit can be in a lot of forms. It doesn't mean you just look in the mirror and say, oh, I'm so beautiful. It could be that you think you're right about everything. Your way is best, blah, 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 blah. The next group is Libra, Virgo, and Leo. And they fall under Raphael's Legion of Jealousy, the green angel. Isn't that funny? Green angel jealousy. And then the last group is Scorpio, Sagittarian, and Capricorn. And they fall under Uriel's Legion, the red angel of unforgiveness. And interesting, Isabella has told us that Uriel is the one angel that goes to all atonements or life between lives. And his legion is for the group of those astrological signs, again, Scorpio, Sagittarian, and Capricorn, that have a problem with forgiveness.
So when you start to look at these things, I'll give you an example. In our past life, and we talked about this on the first time we were on the show, we were Ruby and JJ. We were a couple that was born in the early 1900s. We were around in 1925 during flapper times. We fell in love. We were, however, selfish in such that we only cared about how our relationship was going to go. And because of that, many people suffered, other people died. It was involved with the mobsters. There was a lot of things. It's all in our first book. However, our next life was very short. We were children who died young, and really children who die young don't have any karmic issues. It's usually a lesson for someone else. In this life, we're born as Aquarian and Pisces with an angel of selfishness. And when we first found this out, we thought,
we're not selfish.
what did I do? I mean, I thought, I'm a pretty nice guy. I try to share. I work for people. I'm a physician. I'm taking care of people. I don't think I'm selfish. But we were selfish in the last life so that we would learn in this life to overcome that karmic debt, allowing us to continue to grow and get rid of that. So when we are selfish, the angel shows up and says, you can't do this.
Right.
You know, this is something you have to overcome. You have to be good to people. If you have more than enough, you share.
Yes.
Each one of these signs has a lesson that's much like that. Included in the book, we have some people from history where we have 3 or 4 of their lives in a row.
3 consecutive lives. The one that we know them as, for instance, like Cleopatra, her life, and we discuss her life previous to being Cleopatra and her life after. So why did you behave like she did as Cleopatra, and what did she learn, and did she do anything any differently after?
And did she grow?
We have Napoleon, Cleopatra, is it Mozart?
Mozart.
God,
it's
getting
terrible.
old.
Yeah, but those are those three main ones.
Yes.
And we follow them through consecutive lives, and we also follow one of our past lives almost all the way through, but also the life before that one and the life after that one, that would show what we did and why we had to come back, what was the karmic issue, how were we born the next life, and what transpired. Now, I know this sounds a little interesting because Isabella tries to use things that we already know. Archetypes is something that was written by Carl Jung. However, it's not exactly as he did it, but she went through archetypes, which is another way that you are born and influenced.
Yes.
So you could be a Pisces caregiver or a Pisces explorer, and both of those things explain how you're created. and what you need to do to overcome. And each one of those things has some characteristics that are both lessons and or karmic that exist. If you're an explorer, you could potentially not be the best caregiver, may want to run and not take care of your kids. So you might have been a poor parent in the past. In this life, you could be an explorer. Why? Because it will test you to see if you're going to stay home. Again, to see if you're going to step up and be a good parent. There's also a whole set of traits, is what Isabella calls them, that are all sort of either related to the light or related to animals, as a way for us to understand. One of the interesting traits, because we actually know friends of ours that we're visiting, she's an explorer and she's also a loon. The loon is someone who nests, but is willing to take flight at any moment. Meaning she has the testing point. Is she going to stay with the family or leave? Does she abandon the family or leave? If she's an explorer too, the test is twice as hard.
Right.
Are you going to stay home or are you going to abandon the family? And the book goes through all of these traits, all of these archetypes. Carla can give me a few more examples.
Well, with the traits, they're specifically detailed throughout the book, but there's one that's called warm. And the warm people can hear God more easily. Everybody can hear God. It's whether you close your mind off and you can choose to listen. A crystal, they have issues with trust and forgiveness in the past. There's a rainbow who was angry with God at some point. And the rainbow is the only one that has 9 angels. Everybody else will get one particular one, and then others come in to help during your lifetimes. There's esoteric highness. Well, esoteric highness, they turn the back on everything but themselves, just like it sounds. Then we have the camel's hump. And the camel's hump, just like a camel, they go up and down. They're warm, and then they have esoteric highness. And you hope they'll stay in the warm area, but unfortunately they flip right into that esoteric highness, and they think only of themselves. Then we have the willows. And just like a willow tree, you know, they want to branch out and do everything and not take responsibility. The willow.
I
And then we
take
have
responsibility though.
Oh, good for you. Well, see, then you learned.
Uh-huh.
So then we have the elephant. The elephant, just like an elephant, they're too busy and reckless in their past. So as an elephant, what do? The elephant just slows down. They just kind of trot along and do whatever. And a lot of times that in their past, they were a squirrel. And the squirrel is the trait that they just don't, they're go, 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 do, and they never take time for what's important. So a lot of times, God will slap on that trait of elephant the next time to make you slow down.
Right.
So then Dave already talked about the loon. And then we have the anteater. The anteater in the past controls everything. So now, if you think about an anteater, what do? They spend all day eating ants, looking for ants. They only do one task at a time.
Yes.
So they don't have time to control everything and everybody. We have the owl. And the owl has stereo vision. So their head's always flipping around, paying attention to everybody and everything instead of focusing on themselves. And in the past, you know, it was all about them. So God's hoping they won't do that again. Then we have the mother bull. The mother bull, just like you think, charges in, everything is her own way. They could be a good mother or a good father, but if you always charge in and everything's your own way, well, your kids don't like it, your husband doesn't like it. You know, you're running your children, you're running your husband. And so there's more details, better detailed than just the brief explanation I gave you.
But it's all in the book. And really under the traits and the archetypes, there's enough descriptor that most people could start to pick what's there. And with each one of these, the astrological signs, the archetypes, and the traits, there are fears that most people have associated with it. And the fears are very interesting. And there's karma, whether it's related to jealousy, it's etc., that all falls within those. So as you see and evaluate what you are, you can see those lessons that you had in the past that you failed, that you need to work on. So if it turns out that you need to work on jealousy, you work on jealousy. If you need to work on selfishness, it helps you work on selfishness in this life, because you can see where you were born, what your archetype was, what your trait.
We tell our friends, of course, everybody knows what their astrological sign is,
Mhm.
but talk to your husband, talk to your kids, talk to your friends. Let them read them and help them, because a lot of times you'll read this. People will read these and they say, well, that's not me. I don't do that. And their kids and their husband are saying, yes, you do.
Uh-huh.
So like it or lump it, you know? And
I'm
as far as the archetypes go, those 12s, we have the magician, and they have their goals and fears. They alter their reality and fear their own reality. So they have to work on jealousy. The orphan also works on jealousy. They need to belong and they fear exclusion. The creator, they need to create perfection and they fear imperfection. That also falls under jealousy. You have the innocent. Happiness is their goal. Fear is not knowing their outcome. Unforgiveness. The sage, knowledge. That's what they want. More than anything else, knowledge. And their fear is the lack of knowledge, truth, and deceit. So unforgiveness goes along with that. And then we have the lover. And they want to connect with certain people, but their fear is isolation. So again, unforgiveness. The jester. They want to have fun. Their fear is to be bored. That's selfishness. The rebel, they want to change, like a revolution. They don't want to be oppressed again or powerless. That's selfishness. The caregiver, they need to learn to give of themselves, but their fear is being taken advantage of. Again, selfishness. The hero, they need to be strong and admired. That's what they want more than anything else. And they fear being weak and failing. Again, conceit. The explorer, freedom from control, and their fear is entrapment. They need to feel free and in charge. That's conceit. And then the ruler is the last one. They want to control everything. And their fear is loss of control, and that's conceit.
It's actually kind of quite fascinating, because I have since 2021 have a workshop, which I haven't been doing of late because the podcasts have taken over, but I use the astrology sign, the numerology, the time when you were born, even your name. I use elements and I use numerology, and I look at, and true colors, the personality traits, of which we're all, there's only 4 of them, but we're all governed by one of those traits there. And what I used to do for my clientele is have them go through the process, and then I could break down where the synchronicity was between all of them, the strengths between the whole thread, the weaknesses that they could work on, but also the fears that were in their way and the blockages they put there themselves. And so it just gave them some empowerment of knowledge of self, so that they actually had a clearer vision and moving forward. Well, what you're doing here is giving people that clearer vision of self. It is not a critique of who you are. It is a clarification of who you are to some point. But then where can you take those strengths and weaken those weaknesses? Being aware, right? And allow that to become your essence, so that in this lifetime, because I also do believe that if we get it right in this lifetime, we don't carry it with us into the next lifetime. We don't impose it on the next life.
Correct. Right? Absolutely. That's the whole purpose of all of these lives.
Yeah.
It's to try to get these lessons down, try to move through this. And of course, we move from life to life, and we make mistakes, and we backtrack, and we go forward, and we backtrack. And the goal is to get to the point where we all are just moving forward.
To a higher vibration, a higher dimension, a higher frequency, which is love, kindness, caring. It is that. And when you actually are on that frequency, you can't knowingly do any harm to anyone, because it's only harming yourself.
That's
that
right.
consciousness of how can I hurt this person? the guilt and the remorse that I will feel will be so much more, than the gratification of hurting someone. But when people are in such anger and there is no reasoning and there's no resolve with them because they're just in the flame of anger, none of this is going to help them, because this has to be the free will. I am in discovery of self. I want to understand why I do what I do, or what my blockages are, or what the essence of me is, so that I can be that better person and have a better life. But that is only when people have come through whatever they have to go through to understand it is their choice. You're there to help them when they choose to walk forward. But until they choose to walk forward and they wish to stay in anger and hate, you can't do anything. You can't reach them.
Absolutely. And that's part of the lesson through all of our books, is that love's really the only answer.
Yeah.
That
beginning with love of yourself.
And that is actually the most difficult thing for human beings. Finding that love of self, especially if along the way you have made mistakes, or you have thought you were selfish, or was I conceited there, or was I unforgiving? When you go through all of those things and you come face to face with it, it's very easy to put yourself down instead of saying, you faced it, now you know better, you can lift yourself up.
And Sarah, one of those things that many people leads to the area that they're not loving of themselves is they are unforgiving of themselves.
Yes.
They hold that grudge against themselves. They can forgive the whole world, but they can't forgive themselves.
I was there for a while. I was there. It's like, I'm writing my memoir right now, which I don't know if you've done. It's a little scary. And like
our first book really is our memoir.
Right. Well, you know how scary it is when kind of certain memories come up, and do I want to put that in or not? And it's mine is just an observation of my life. I'm not going into dirty nitty gritty names or anything like that. It's the observation of what has happened to me, but it brings back memories. And then immediately it's like, sometimes I get the guilt over that memory. And it's like, well, and then the other voice from behind me comes, but this is what you knew at the time. You didn't do it with malice. You did it with ignorance. And we need to forgive ourselves. Right?
And again, this is Carla's point, which she used to ask me, I never got the manual. So
that was my excuse.
So apparently we're trying to write the manual.
Exactly.
Again, because if you can at least look at the blueprint that is affecting you, you can evaluate it and decide, how do I change the things I don't like?
Yes.
And it's a heavy read. I recommend you only read a couple chapters at a time, because you are self-evaluating as you do it. And as I've told my girlfriends, don't read about your astrological sign in here and think to yourself, oh, I'm terrible, blah, blah, blah. This is horrible. I don't do that. Just read it and know that every single one of the 12 astrological signs has their pros and their cons. That's why we're here. We're not the same astrological sign every time we come back. We take turns with everything. So it's all okay.
One of the things I used to do in my program is that have people write down in columns everything that they hated about life, all the negatives, right? And they'd write that very quickly. And then it would be, okay, in this column, everything you're grateful for. And that took longer for them to write. And I said, now I want you to read out the gratitudes.
Yes.
How far do those gratitudes reach in your life? Right? Now, what happens if you actually feed the gratitudes? Feed and nurture the gratitudes instead of the negatives. Where would your life be?
Sarah, that's another one of the lessons that we've had, which is the more grateful you are, the better life becomes.
Yes.
You realize that this little adventure or adversity was just something to overcome.
It was just a challenge to face. It tests your resolve, your resilience, your strength, your courage, your abilities. It was just showing you another strength that lay within you.
Correct.
For sure.
And we've looked at all of those patterns. We tried to place it in this book just to help people self-evaluate.
Right.
And we really did it with the help of our spirit guides and angels, and even they tried to tell us how we're created, how we change, how we become, and how the vibration changes over many lives, how your vibration changes even as you die and reincarnate, and how you go to different levels in the spiritual world based on where
what you've
you're
accomplished
at
in this world.
in this life.
Yes.
It doesn't, now, Isabella would very quickly say, your level of vibration doesn't make you better.
Mhm,
Everyone's special, nobody's more special.
mhm.
However, it sort of keeps track of where you are on that path to not returning.
Yeah.
And returning home.
Yeah. And there is a colored chart in the manual that shows all of the planes that Isabella has given us, the 7 planes, Earth being number 1 and being the lowest vibration.
Mm-hmm. And you know, a lot of people constantly talk about Earth grounding. Well, I can give you a message from Earth. She says, please stop. You're giving me all your misery and your woe, and it's shattering me, right? And also people think that if they just ground and dispose of their misery into the earth, that's it. That's all you have to do. Well, where is your connection with the higher source? Where's your connection of opening up your channel to receive? It isn't just about Earth. Mother Earth is just feeling rather saturated. We have got to raise up that frequency and lighten it up and have that connection from above,
just
whatever you want to call it.
meditate. Just learn to meditate. You'll open up.
Yeah.
Yes, because part of this is when you're earthbound, you are mostly limited to perceiving through physical perception.
Yes.
And so as you become grounded, you don't reach God, source, creator. No. You don't reach your spirit guide because they are living in a non-physical existence.
Yes.
They perceive non-physical. And we perceive physical. And if you don't communicate on their level, you don't receive anything.
But the other flip coin is, if you do receive from them and you allow that beautiful truth and essence to come through you and then ground, you're actually feeding the earth. You're feeding equilibrium.
Yeah, I like that approach.
So,
Sarah, we got to look at things that are also reality to try to put the listeners into a different perspective. Everybody thinks that life is horrible. Everybody thinks they're part of a suppressed group. This is the world we're living in now. We're tribalizing, we're splitting up, we're fighting. They don't know that this vibrational change has occurred for thousands of years. They don't know that we actually live in the least violent, the most positive, the least war, the least hunger, the least poverty that we've ever had. Because the world's changing to a positive, they're still focusing on only the negative.
Well, that unfortunately, those ones that are handmaiden tailors, they're the people that are wanting to go backwards. And part of that reason is they fear that connection with the universe. Part of it is, I'm going to lose control. I'm going to, I've got control over the puppets here on Earth. I don't want them to be empowered and think and feel for themselves. I don't want them to elevate. And of course, the church has been afraid of this for a very long time.
Oh my God, I almost said that right with you. I wanted to just say that very second, I think you just gave the definition of church.
Yes. Well, they want you to go through the priest. That's the only way to get to God. And, God, universe, spirit, whichever you want to call it, that energy can come through you at any time. It's your opening up, it's your free will, it's your divine presence. And those that are trying to turn the clock back and trying to rally up people to feel they have less instead of appreciating that they have more than ever before, they're feeding into the lack of their soul and spirit. Right?
Correct.
And if you can ignite the heart and soul and spirit, then, we could raise them up. But that, again, has to be their choice. There's a Celtic rune called Haglas. And Haglas is disruption.
Mm.
And, you know, the universe gave me a saying some time ago, I think I said this in the last show, the universe is going to shake us up, to wake us up, for us to step up, change it up, and grow up. Grow up vibrationally, but grow up as a human race. Come on, you're being so petty. Really, is this what you want to fight about? When there's hunger over
Apparently.
here, and there's mudslides and fires over here, and this is that, and this is what you want to fight about? And it's that, you know, I don't know if there's a pettiness in any of those cycles there, but you know, there's a lot of pettiness out there, and people have to own that. All of our choices need to be owned.
And it becomes this battle between God, source, creator, Tao, whatever your vision of that is, because I don't want to tell everybody what they should think.
No.
But that's the creative force that's moving us forward.
Yes.
The divine force moving us forward.
Yes.
All the other forces, the entropy that just exists naturally, all of our hate, which is really that what people want to define as evil, that's the destructive force.
Yes.
It's really, when you
Created
focus,
by man.
created by man. The destructive force is created
yes.
by man.
Totally.
The creative force is created by God.
And I love.
And
God
love.
is not hate. God is not persecution.
Correct.
Right? God is love. Whatever you want to call it, Gus, God is love.
And God is love. And I usually like to say that God is love, the creative force. Yes, God is part of divine justice and divine mercy. That's how, but divine mercy is, there is no hell. It's not tomorrow you're going to be punished forever because you stole someone's pencil.
Right.
You're going to be rewarded forever. That's God's mercy.
Yeah.
Regardless of how long it takes you to learn.
And hell is actually here on earth. What
Correct.
we put
We create
ourselves
it.
through, we create the hell. There's many
That's true.
pitchforks floating around, and that is because, you know, we've ignited those fires. But as you said, God is mercy. And even if you have to go to soul school, which I've been told there's soul school, because you have become that evil energy, then there is much that you have to repair before you're allowed back, actually. So
we call that period of atonement. It's during you have your past life review, you meet with angels and plan the next life and counsel. And sometimes you sit for a long extended period of time because you need to allow and watch the world fold without you.
Yes. And you know, bird's eye view to, gosh, that love thing really works.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's actually in the manual that is interest, I think, is that as you progress and your vibration lifts, and if you do get done in this world and you return to that spiritual world, heaven, whatever you would like to call the unseen realm, the higher levels of vibration, however you word this, what happens is your higher level pulls others up.
Yes.
The overall average kind of raises.
Yep.
As you raise.
Yep.
And it helps that person on the lower level, it pulls them in that direction because our love and the positivity keep growing.
It expands out this way, doesn't it? It's like the heart pumping, it keeps expanding out. People of everything think there's below or height. It's around. It's around. It's the, you know, arms linking around each other, and each one with their own beautiful energy, igniting the next energy and the next energy and the next energy. You know, I think I referred to this in the last show, that I believe we're all an instrument, that we need to learn what that instrument is, learn how to play it well, bring it to the orchestra of life, and then in harmony as individuals, in harmony, in sync with each other, create a symphony that then resonates out to everyone else, lifting them up and inviting them to be a part of that frequency. And we've all got that capability. It's a question again going to choice. I would say most of the people that I have interviewed here over the last 10 years made that choice. And along the way, you know, you talked about the people that commit the evil doings on people, they come back to be the victims.
Mhm.
And there's many a person here that I've interviewed that has been the victim to some horrific things.
Yeah.
But who
Correct.
they've become for going through the process
Mhm.
of going through the forgiveness, the clearing, they never forget, but they
Yeah.
release the pain and they forgive, even though they don't condone, because that forgiveness is for them.
That's right.
And
Correct.
who they are today and what they're doing for humanity is astounding. Right? So I think where you talked about coming back as the victim from maybe something you did in a past life, it doesn't mean you have to be the victim all your life. It's to
Oh.
recognize, I'm a victim. Am I going to stay here or what am I going to
Mhm.
do about it?
That's right.
And the other thing too, Sarah, is mankind feels successful, which is somehow comforting. And it might be a little on the edge of conceit, but feels successful every time they overcome adversity.
Mhm.
And it allows them just to give a little bit more. And as they give a little bit more, Isabella usually comments that every time somebody gives a little bit more, it's just like the ripple effect.
Yes, every drop
It's
of
like
water counts.
every
Mhm.
drop of water counts. And as it drops into the water and it spreads, it's sort of like the smile. When
Mhm.
you smile at that person, they find themselves smiling at somebody down the street.
Yeah.
And they were just walking and frowning, but the smile somehow changed them.
Yep. Turn that
And it's,
frown upside down.
there you go. But all of those things matter.
Yeah.
Every single one of those moments matter. Every one of those moments is a potential to create another member of your soul family or another member of your karmic family. If you treat someone with disrespect, don't be surprised if you have to return with them and
Yeah.
get disrespect.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you treat someone with kindness, in the next life, they'll return and be kind.
Mhm.
Have you ever found, especially in the media and the social media, etc., what we're seeing is such a pushback to unkindness, but we're
Mhm.
also seeing people that we've put on a pedestal and think that they are everything. And then they have fallen off that pedestal and been broken and openly admitted, I struggle. You're seeing the success of
Mhm.
something I did, but you don't know the struggle behind me. And what
Mhm.
that's actually done for many, many people is going, well, if she can be that successful and still struggle, then it's okay for me to own my own struggles
Mhm.
and not
Correct.
be ashamed of them, not be afraid of them, and just understand all I need is some courage, strength, and wisdom,
Mhm.
and to know how to go through them. And that means listening to podcasts and all the wonderful people who've got that knowledge for you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We're seeing so much a turn now towards heart. Yes, we have he shall not be named, Voldemort, trumping around and raising up a whole load of doo-doo. But it is what we feed grows. So if we keep feeding the solution, because there's so many solutions out there to every problem, and if we're willing to listen to the solution, if we're willing to be a part of it, if we're willing to put our foot forward and say, I want to be a part of this, what can I do? We will realize we are the cure for all that ails humans. And we are holding ourselves back for our own evolution. Step into
Correct.
heart and kindness and love and raise that frequency, and you'll realize you're getting further and further to the universal wisdom and knowledge, and you're becoming more and more a part of it. And one day you won't need to come back. I think I have one more lifetime, but I won't be coming back struggling next time. I'm coming back to continue the work that I'm doing, maybe on a different scale, but I won't need to be persecuted, torn and quartered and struggle with it anymore.
I guess you'll know at the end of this one, huh?
Oh no, at the end of this one, yes, we had a little agreement. I want to leave this time. No, you can't. You've got to come back one more time. And I said, okay, then this is how I want to be. I want to come back productive right from the word go, and ignite those heart and souls, which is what I came to this planet to do thousands of years ago. And then I'm happy to go back home. When we live with spirit in our human hearts and we align together, life is truly beautiful. And you talked about the elephants. There's something beautiful about becoming an elephant. They can run and do a stampede, but they enjoy being still around the water, conversing with each other. They're learning that life isn't always about the big rush, that there is so much knowledge in the stillment, in the silence of life. And if we could just slow people down to hear it and feel it, then they would have the answers that they're seeking instead of chasing them all the time.
Correct. And that's part of the lessons in the book.
But it's not just that book. Let's talk about the other books as well for people who haven't listened to that. So you have the past life ones, which is, as you said, is your kind of memoir.
Yes, it's The Gift of Past Lives with Mother Isabella, God, and Elizabeth. We talk about 20 of our past lives. We talk about the first experience that we had with the spontaneous memory. And we went and investigated the spontaneous memory and found evidence that it was true.
Right.
That in itself started us on this path. When we found out, we found the wedding announcements, we found the birth announcements
From that year.
from those years related to that past life as Ruby and JJ. Somebody we didn't know anything about, and suddenly there was all this information, and it matched all the information we already knew.
Right. Just that clarification, right?
Yes.
Right.
And then we started, so that's all in our first book, part of that experience, some of our past lives, some of the lessons that we learned, and how conceit, selfishness, and jealousy and unforgiveness cross through those lives. Then, because we kind of wanted to see what the rest of the world thought,
And because we were both raised Catholic,
we went out, and the second book that we wrote was Hell No Reincarnation. And it investigates religion, the reality of the world. 33% of the world's population believes in reincarnation. 20% of those who claim to be Christian believe in reincarnation. There are Muslims, I'll say sects, it's even though the Druze are not the same as Muslims, but they practice much the same, that believe in reincarnation. Reincarnation is actually a tenet of the Jewish faith, and spoke about it during the Kabbalah. For the Jews, it's if you don't complete all 613 of their laws, commandments, rules, and some are to-dos and some are not to-dos, well then it's not that you fail.
Right.
And in the Jewish word is kata, which is fail to reach the mark or fail to reach your goal. If you don't do all 613, you'll come back to do more.
Right.
Which is still sort of the same lesson. If you haven't learned all the lessons, you're going to come back and get more lessons.
But Catholicism used to have reincarnation way back before they thought, oh, hang on, we don't have the control over the masses with this. If they know that they're going to come back. So in order to have that rule over the people and the control, hell had to come into the equation. And so there couldn't be any, you're going to just go to heaven or hell, and it's up to me, where I'm going to send you. And then reincarnation was something that was just not even allowed to be talked about.
Yes. Origin, still at 200 AD, so 170 years after Jesus. Origin is still the head, really the head doctrine of the Catholic Church. And he's writing about reincarnation. It's about 200 years after his death. He's excommunicated from the church, even though he wrote almost all the rest of the early church doctrine. Because if reincarnation exists, A, you can't control the people because they get another chance.
Yeah.
And B, if reincarnation exists, then the atoning death of Jesus doesn't quite fit the story they're telling. If only Jesus could save you from hell,
right?
But you can be saved because you come back anyway. What good is the story? And so it no longer controls the masses.
Yeah.
We started trying to only let the higher echelon know and never tell the masses. And they finally said, even that doesn't work. We have to write it out of the book. Because if you don't write it out and you get another chance, then I can't tell you you're going to hell and if you don't toe the line.
Exactly. Toe that line. Did you ever see the movie Come Sunday?
Nope,
It's
I don't think so.
Chadwick, the young man that died of cancer. He was the Panther in the movie. A brilliant actor. Actually did 2 movies with cancer and nobody knew. So, but he did this movie, which was a true story of a young black pastor of a church, and it was, Jesus, come to Jesus. Jesus will if you're not with Jesus, you are going to hell. And that's quintessentially what it was. And then one day he was watching the Rwanda genocide, and he was holding his own child, and he said, "These children aren't going to hell."
No.
So it changed the way he thought about things, and he brought it into the church, and they turned against him.
Of course.
Right. And so it was, no, you follow our doctrine, and there is no other. So he left the church, he formed a different church where everybody was welcome. But it was a very moving movie of that. But it really did show what religion has become. It's become a business. It's become a control factor. It's become the fear mongering and a dictatorship of who and what you should be. And one of those things that you described as, not conforming, that's certainly me. The more you try and make me conform, the more.
Good for you.
Yeah, Sarah, I've kind of got into reading as much religious things as I can, just to try to understand their perspective. And the perspective on a very Calvinistic, and I hate to point that out, but almost every Protestant denomination is either Calvinistic or Armenian. Calvinists literally tell you now that you really have no free will. You're only saved because God lets you change your heart. If God changes your heart, God created you, God predetermined everything, you have no choice. And in fact, you were damned before you were born.
Then why are we here?
I know. They have a shortage of people in hell. I don't know.
And I look at that and I read that and I think, God, and there are people who believe this.
Well, we were those people once upon a time.
You were saved or damned before you were even born.
But that is, that I don't like to watch the news, but I kind of watch it through Trevor Noah and Colbert, because that's the only way I can watch certain things, with a touch of humor. But you're listening to some people's rationale, their argument over something, and they are fervent believers in it. They'll give their life to that belief. But you come along and show them what they believe in is wrong, or there is another way, and there is an uprising which you're about to see in America, I'm afraid, an uprising and it has no rhyme or reason. It's just that they've bought a doctrine, right? And God forbid that they should think outside of that box or think for themselves. They've been so brainwashed at this point. They're puppets on a string.
To the point that if they think out for themselves, then they immediately go to hell.
Right. Yes, exactly. So what can we do?
For yourself, or you go to hell.
Yeah. So what does that tell you? That the majority of the people are so conceited and so consumed with themselves, that they would rather send themselves to hell than think outside the box.
I know. I live with an 89-year-old who used to be a nurse back in the 40s or 50s, and she had a man there who needed a blood transfusion, and he was of special blood. And the only person they had happened to be a person of color. This guy refused to take his blood. And she said to him, "You will die without this blood. There's nobody else around here. You need a blood transfusion ASAP. I'm not having blood from a black man. My children will turn out black." And he died.
Please.
He died instead. And it's just like, and it's ridiculous. Like, where? I mean, is this so much ancestral and past life brainwashing that their job in this lifetime is to break through that membrane of falsehoods?
Correct. And Sarah, I'm just going to say this because we've seen this pattern in our past lives, which is the number one way to come back in your next life black is to be a white person who's prejudiced and
Right.
makes a choice. You will come back as black because you need
Yeah.
to learn the compassion.
That's right.
Right.
Or in some other class that you have defined as being
Less than you.
less than you.
Mhm.
You'll become them because you need to live what
So
that
we can
is.
have a lot more toads around.
There you go.
Well,
Um,
I hate to admit that a man who thinks he's the man, I hate to admit that I love the idea that he might come back as a woman. Maybe
Oh, God.
an ugly woman.
An ugly woman with
With
enormous
menstrual
amount of
cramps that are
challenges.
definitely bad.
Yes.
You're bad.
It's yes, it's you know, you know how people will say to you, if you had one wish for the world, what would it be?
Hmm.
And for me, it is for everyone to feel the joy of love.
Hmm.
Correct.
Because if everybody could feel the joy of love, where would hate have room?
Love cannot exist with conceit, selfishness, jealousy, and unforgiveness.
Right. Nope.
And
has
all
no
of
room for it.
those are really your ego.
Yes. The human
So-
ego, not the soul ego, right? The
Huge
human ego.
ego. Mhm.
Yeah. And I think, it's okay to be proud of something that you're doing, to stand tall and something that you stand for, because that's your purpose. That's what you're here to do. But if it changes into, I'm so important, or, and I now snub everybody else because I'm so important, or
Yes.
only do it for big money where you used to do it for no money because of the
Yes.
meaningful purpose, then you've lost your way.
That's right.
Absolutely. And the other one, and this is, again, I apologize to your very religious listeners.
I don't have
But
too
you
many religious
cannot-
listeners.
I don't know if you do. I'm just apologizing just in case. The other thing that's true is that you cannot fear and love at the same time.
No, that fear tightens you up.
Mhm.
Everything
Correct.
in your body contracts, including the brain, the heart, everything contracts. You are
Mhm.
short of breath and you have no clarity at that time. The deep
No.
breath, in trust,
Mhm.
So-
that the clarity will come, opens everything up.
So if you truly fear God, you cannot do the purpose of loving God.
Nor can you accept love from God.
Correct. And you can't love without free will, which
No.
is why everything in the world exists. Because if love is coerced, forced upon you on fear, it's not love.
It's fake, it's control.
Correct.
It's somebody else's control over you. And to break those strings, to cut those strings, yes, you're going to be very wobbly for a while. You got to, get your own legs and you've got to take your own journey. And again, in writing this memoir right now, I've had a couple of those major cutting of the strings in my life. And then thinking that you're string free, only to maybe hand a tiny thread to someone. And the next thing you know, you're back on the strings, and then realize, okay, I hadn't completely severed. That means I hadn't completely allowed my own healing. And this, again, don't persecute yourself. Don't punish. Don't even punish the person that's doing it to you because you allowed it, right?
That's right.
Take ownership over it. And now you know better, go and do better. Life is about constantly seeking out better ways to have a better impact.
Mhm.
Right.
And so, Sarah, we wrote 3 books basically on reincarnation and the time between lives. The Gift of Past Lives with Mother Isabella, God and Elizabeth, Hell No Reincarnation in the manual. We've written a 4th book that's, I will say, completely different than the other books.
A bit controversial.
Oh, good. I'm going to be looking forward to that one.
So if you get a chance, I don't know if they can even see that on the screen, but it's Her Huba and His Rose.
Mhm.
It is based on a couple's past life, not us. We are there
During that lifetime.
We have witnessed part of the story. Isabella has filled part of the story. It's set in the Second Temple period during the time of Jesus in Jerusalem, about an itinerant preacher and the love of his significant other, the love of the people at the time, and the love of God and the families of that people. And it's his journey through his life and what happens and how he interacts with the people, with his God, and with the woman that he loves. And it's a beautiful story. It has a little controversy because the story appears to parallel another famous character in history.
Ooh, okay. So is it
Who also
a
lived in the
person,
Second
only one
Temple
person can
period at
take
the
a
time
journey?
of Jesus.
Right. Okay. We are influenced by the people around us. So I think that one of the things that we have to be very careful of is who is around us. Family member, someone you love, someone you're married to. If that person is only living in negativity and will not allow you to live in your spirit of love, then it is time to actually say goodbye. Let them take their own journey. If you come back, you come back. If not, thank you. It is up to each and every one of us to at times be selfish in our own healing so we can step into our own purpose. And every single one of you is here to serve each other. We're here to serve humankind, and each one of us has that particular gift of service, and we need to know what it is.
And all of that, Sarah, again, this is throughout all of our books. There is a certain sense of compassion, but life is not as gray,
Right?
Black and white as there's some gray.
There's a lot of gray.
And there is people who are truly toxic. And the word toxic is the right word.
Yes.
There is no way that you have to continue to beat your head against the toxic person that you cannot change.
Exactly. No, and you can't change them, and it's not up to you to change them. They have to be willing to change themselves. You've got to be responsible for you. What do you need to do to step into that light and that love and be that beautiful instrument you're meant to be? And that's who you owe it to. It's the oxygenate self. Until you are beautifully abundant and your cup runneth over, you can't help anyone else with an empty cup.
Absolutely.
And you can forgive everybody, but if you forget,
yes,
that's silly.
I agree with you wholeheartedly there. You know, it's when things are happening to us, we've got to take responsibility to sometimes it's, you know, did we hand them the boots to kick us with? Unknowingly.
Absolutely.
But did we? We need to question that. The other thing is when people say, you know, it's happening to me, well, maybe it's happening for you. What is the lesson you are meant to learn in this? What's that strength, courage, ability? What's the, you know, what are you meant to be seeing here at this time that's going to propel you forward? So don't always go, why me?
I know.
You know, and it's why not? Because we're never given more than what we can cope with.
And it might not even be why not you. It may be because you need it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Karma's not punishment.
Yeah.
Karma's not punishment. Karma is another chance, another opportunity.
Yes. And there are always opportunities, however dark you get. There are always opportunities to turn from the darkness into the light. And that isn't the religious, you know, of God per se. You know, you talked about Tao, at a Master Sharon, and he's coming back again in the next week or two. And he talks about Tao, above God, you know, the ruler of the universe and all of that beautiful wisdom. And if we're willing to open up our channel, and you do this with your writing and with your messages, if you open up your channel, the message will come through. You don't need to, you know, I need to verify and justify this. No, it's like you trust it. It's truth. Your heart is in alignment with it. Your spirit's in alignment with it. Your head knows what it needs to know when it needs to know it. And you don't question it. This is what you need to know in this moment. Now, what do you do with it? And you write books.
We write books, go on podcasts and share the message.
Exactly. And I think so many more people now are looking at past lives. They're looking at archetypes. They're looking at astrology. They're looking at all of that and not going, oh, it's phooey. They're looking at, God, there's something here. It has numerology is the basis of everything, because numbers, mathematical equations is the equation of everything. When you actually look at your number of your birth date or your name and a number of other things, even if you are wanting to change your name or do a business name and do your numerology, it will tell you if it's favorable to you or not. The astrology, everything, all of these things that can be guidance systems for us. When we are in question, I'm not quite sure what I need to do at this moment, then having these things at your fingertips can be that clarity you're looking for so you can make the right choice.
Yes.
And that's why we write.
Exactly.
We keep writing, and that's why we keep talking, because if we just get one person today,
Yeah,
they question something and it makes them better, then we've done our purpose.
the ripple.
The ripple happens because they'll affect
As
someone
they
else.
start changing, they change the people around them, they change how they treat other people, and that changes that. We may start that domino effect, and we sometimes just do not see it beyond the first few tiles. And we don't know how far reaching it is. And then every now and again, somebody at the other end of it, lets you know what impact
Reminds
it's
us.
had. And the thing is, send it out with love. Send it out with love and goodwill, and it will be received in that way.
Yes.
Correct.
In everything that we do. So how do people get the books, and how do people reach you?
All right. So we do have a website. It's thegiftofpastlives.com. Certainly, there are links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble on all of the books there. Or you can go straight to Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Or if you are in the UK, there Waterford and a couple other, many different links so that you can find the book.
Or your local little bookstore can get them.
Yeah.
Yes, anybody can get them because they're actually available now to print on demand and be sent, or as an ebook sent immediately.
Yeah.
So you can go into your small bookstore. One of the things we like to tell people is you don't have to go to the big box store to order the book. Certainly you can go to order it on Amazon and get it in 2 or 3 days. However, you can go to your little bookstore who was affected by COVID,
Yes.
who had nobody coming in, that you've used 5 years ago, but you quit using because you didn't travel. Go into your nice little bookstore, ask them for one of our books. They can find it, order it. It'll still be there in a week.
Yeah.
So please give them your patronage too, because those little bookstores are still important to many of our small towns.
Absolutely.
On the giftofpastlives.com, our website, there is a contact us that if you enter your information, it'll send an email directly to us, and we do respond to all of those emails.
Wonderful.
So if they want to reach us directly, they certainly can.
And please go back and listen to the show they did with us previously, of how they actually discovered they had the past lives together, and what it actually meant to them on the journey that they're on together today. So I do invite you to go back and listen to that, because there's so much that we haven't talked about today that's in that show. So the manual, and we do a lot of the time, people say, yeah, okay, I understand, I need to do this, but how? And the more the information that they have, the more it helps them in making those choices in life that's going to propel them forward into that love vibration. So thank you for writing the manual. Simple little codes of conduct that people can apply in their lives. And I know that for me, astrology has always been big, numerology. And when I was introduced to it, I realized the impact of it. The true colors radically changed my life and understanding the personality trait. And I understood when my family didn't get me because they were on the opposite end of the color. So
Yeah.
totally different. But also, the elements and how much they have to say about this. And then I had this program view of your view of life. And it was a simple program of people walking through and the meanings behind it. And it opened up my world and helped me forgive myself and gave me permission to be. So when you have something like this manual, where the more and more you discover your traits, your archetypes, your astrology, everything else that can help you understand you and how you perceive life and how you interact with life, then you have more clarity in making better choices in life.
Yes.
So get the manual, folks.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure, Sarah.
Been great to have you back on again. Don't forget to come back with the next book.
Okay.
And
Will
we'll see you then. And to everyone else out there, if it feels a little far-fetched, or if we've tapped onto subjects like around religion and everything today, and you go, well, I'm not sure about that. Well, read the books. Read the books, listen to the first show, read the manual, try it out for yourself. You don't know what impact it's going to have on you until you're willing to try it. So before you spurn it, give it a try. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or self-discovery-media/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations or follow us on Patreon, and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.